When you were going through for lack of a better word, the history of Judaism, you kind of stopped at the Baal Shem Tov.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously a lot of my followers are Chabad. I grew up Chabad. So what's your view on Chabad, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, his view of the world, his impact on the world? Where does that fit into your
I'm not an
worldview?
expert. My father, when I was born, was going through a Chabad phase.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely have a relationship with Chabad. My name was almost Shner Zalman. At the last minute, it became something else. So there's something there. And later on, when I was a teenager, in my late teens, I very much connected to the Baal HaTanya, and I got really into it. And that was sort of I think it was my basic philosophy of how I interacted with Judaism and with life was from the Baal HaTanya's perspective, as far as what I understood it to be. But this later evolved. Today, the way that I see it is that the Baal Shem Tov was a representative of the Zohar. The Zohar is the representative of what does it mean to have a Torah, because without the Zohar, the Torah is not really that meaningful. It might tell you what to do, but it can't really connect you to your soul, which is the goal of what it's trying to accomplish. And so at best, it would be a perfectly programmed robot, but it cannot be a human being. A human being must be alive. He must be beyond the books that he's read. He must be something that is there present. And so Reb Shimon Bar Yochai brings it down, the Arizal brings it down, the Baal Shem Tov brings it down. And then come a lot of offshoots from the Baal Shem Tov. So I don't see Chabad specifically as something that's expressing the original Baal Shem Tov. It's something that was custom designed for a certain project, for a certain perspective. And so to the others, like Breslev and just like Vishnitz.
Do you feel like it's moving away from the Baal Shem Tov in some way?
I feel like it's narrowing it down to something more logical. The Baal Shem Tov is more emotional, and the Chabad movement is more logical, more connected to the mind, like the Moach Shalet al Halev thing, versus the Baal Shem Tov, which is the Moach is so in love with the Lev that they just work together. There isn't that much that distinction in the teachings of the Baal Shem Tovs. And this is an example of this teaching where Chabad sort of veers away from the Baal Shem Tov is the Baal Shem Tov's instruction about Halos Amidos. Halos Amidos means that if a person encounters any type of attraction or fear in the external world, he should try to figure out what is the essence, the soul of that experience, and bring that soul back to its origin. Save it from the external expression and bring it back to what it really means. So, for example, on a basic level, a person is afraid of something. There's war, there are enemies, there's whatever. And that fear causes him to now shrink. Now, the whole world is no longer the Ein Sof, the original one that is described by the name, by the holy name. Now, suddenly, there are other factors that are influencing reality that he is now concerned about. Or if he's attracted to something that, in his view or understanding, is not really good for him. And so then again, there's no longer the unity. There is something else now that's playing a game with this unity. So the Baal Shem Tov's advice is find the soul and connect that back to its root. And so what is essentially what we should be afraid of? We should be afraid of violating our design. That's the only fear we should have. If we never violated our design, we have his guarantee that we're going to be safe and we're going to be rewarded and things are going to work out wonderful. The moment we violate his design, no matter for what reason, then suddenly we have a personal conflict with reality at large.
But what would be an example of elevating that fear?
And so the example is you take it back to the fear that is the essence of fear, which is the real fear, which is I don't want to go against my design. And so if being afraid of something external is against my design, now is not the time for that. I'm not available. And so you bring it back to its original source. The same thing with anything you're attracted to. You want something, what do you want? You want the revelation of your own soul. This is what you want. You think, if I have this, my soul will reveal itself more, I will feel closer to life itself, and I will be more attached to the divine. If that's accurate, then that's a healthy desire. If it's inaccurate, then this desire is now taking you away from that love. Elevating the spark would mean remember what you really love. Don't get confused by what your senses are telling you, and realize what it is you're really searching for.
And
so,
you feel like Chabad disagrees with this?
Oh, the Baal HaTanya states clearly that a person shouldn't be a fool and try to apply this method, which is the method of the Baal Shem Tov.
Right. I think he says, how can you elevate something if you're beneath it?
It's basically saying the animal soul awoke. She is now in charge, and she told you you're attracted to something. You're going to now try to argue with an animal. You know, that's essentially his message. And the Baal Shem Tov has that view, obviously. And so I think the Baal HaTanya was more in touch with his people. He was more grounded. He was more here. You know, he was speaking from a practical perspective. The Baal Shem Tov was more on the other side. He was more beyond than here. And so in that sense, the instruction is different. And the same goes for all the offshoots. They have their own flavor where they're different. I just chose this as an example. Yeah? And obviously Chabad is based on the Zohar, based on the Arizal, based on the Baal Shem Tov. It's a wonderful source of Hasidus, but it's not the original flavor, it's a specific flavor. All the Hasidus that came from the Baal Shem Tov are a different flavor, a different variation of that same original light. And so it's different lenses based on the practical application of this teaching.